everybody, to our next episode of The Cutting Edge. We are absolutely thrilled to have one of the modern pioneers and innovators of surgery, one of the real stalwarts of colorectal surgery, and of course, our great friend, Professor Antonio Lacy this morning. We're hoping that in the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be able to explore and discover a few of the things that you may not know about Antonio. Some of his early career, early life, how AIS was set up, and of course, what he sees as being the future now of surgery. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Venki Munikrishnan. Venki, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Hello, Prof. So great to see you again.
And of course, welcome to Antonio. Antonio, welcome from lovely sunny Mallorca, I believe.
Thank you very much. Actually, it's not, it's cloudy, but probably tomorrow will be sunny.
So excellent. Okay, so as we sit here all under lockdown restrictions in London, Spain, and to some extent to Chennai as well, we hope that you'll enjoy the next 30 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel for additional content, as well as competitions that we may be able to include you in future episodes of The Cutting Edge. So if I could start, Antonio, we've known each other a great many times and worked together, operated together in different countries, and have developed a fantastic relationship over the years. But and many people will have known you, of course, from the AIS channel now as being the premier online surgical education platform. But what I think our viewers would really want to know is what led you to all of this? What was your early career like? Because I know, and Venki knows, and some of your closer friends and colleagues would know, that you didn't start off as a colorectal surgeon. And it would be interesting if you could tell us a little bit about your journey.
Thank you very much. You know, it's a pleasure and an honor, you know, to be with you. And also, you know, to be, I think we created like a family. You are younger than me. However, you know, I think sometimes you are like a brothers, and I think that is very good. And probably it's thanks to these new ideas. But if I'm talking about my history is probably the same thing that many surgeons in my era, because I started my residency in the 80s, and I was in a group, a very active group related with liver surgery. Actually, I went to United States, first to Atlanta, and after I moved to San Francisco with one of the biggest, you know, surgeon that I met in my life. He do a lot of liver surgery, transplant, pediatric, in crazy, you know, technician. This guy is now is involved in take a look of this, involved and uterus transplant. Could you imagine? And it was funny because I saw him 2 years ago in summer, because they decided to make a cycling here in Mallorca, and this guy was fantastic. However, when they started, you know, I was involved in liver transplant during 14 years. When I came back to Barcelona, I tried to start with the liver pediatric transplant program. However, you know, it was a younger of a group, a very active and solid group, and they decided not to give me an opportunity to do it. And that was the reason, because when I was in San Francisco, I started also with laparoscopy, and I decided, okay, move to, at the same time, I remember I used to because normally the liver transplant was at the night, not to involve in the normal program, and without sleeping anything, I'm quite a heavy worker. You know, I start to do laparoscopy starting. I remember, you know, one of the workers of the hospital has a cholecystitis, and I did my second cholecystectomy laparoscopy, you know, and I started to do cholecystectomies, nasal procedures, hernia repairs. I remember when I started with colorectal. When I started with colorectal, I have to move to another hospital to do a proctocolectomy by laparoscopy, because it's not, you know, I cannot do it in my hospital because my boss is absolutely against these procedures. like in every, in many academic centers. And that was the reason, because I decided one day I was in a liver transplant, and I asked to my boss, I said, probably I have to not continue to do liver surgery or liver transplant. And my boss, I remember, is a good boss, said to me, he said, okay, you can go home. And that was, I stopped this day. I was really saying, come on, they don't need me, because they, I do. And that is the reason, because I moved and I started to do bariatric, I started to do many things. Probably I'm not the normal surgeon, because probably it's more specialized surgeon now. Anyway, that was in summa my life.
So it's interesting. You went from doing this very technical type of surgery in pediatric liver transplant. I imagine that would have involved things like colorectal cyst malformation, Kasai operations, these very technical operations on one side, which are almost microscopic, wearing the loops and very fiddly. And then you go to something completely different, which is away from the body, and then working with laparoscopy, where you're outside the body and working with instruments. Do you think that is there any similarity in that you were doing something with loops on, which is very close, and you're being able to see great magnification, and then with the laparoscopy, you could also see things that you couldn't see with the adult surgery? Is there any, how did you translate one set of skills to the other, and then make that transition into laparoscopic work from doing pediatric liver?
Yeah, I think there are quite similarities, between, using special glasses or using laparoscopy. I remember when I was in liver transplant in San Francisco, Pacific Presbyterian Hospital, now California Medical Center. I remember I met a surgeon, I don't remember because it's a very complicated name. She's originally from Russia, and he's an excellent surgeon. He actually wrote a book of physics, but a book like this, he's a crazy man, a very clever man. And he's doing cholecystectomies. He started to do a hernia repair after a course. He went to a course and come back 2 days after, and he did the first hernia repair, transperitoneally. And he did it in 40 minutes. And I started, to work with him. He has a really bad humor in the operating theaters. And it was funny because the resident, they wanted to scrap with him. Because the majority of words I cannot understand in his strange English, and my poor English too, I say, okay, for me, it doesn't matter. I used to scrap with him, and I learned a lot. And when I come back, I can do it. I think it's similar, because I love and maybe you can understand me, because my name is originally from Ireland. It's an Irish name. However, my passport, when I was 17 years old, I went to the United States, and my passport is a Spanish passport. And I remember, we say, probably you don't remember, General Franco was a crazy man. He's a dictator. And I was absolutely shy. It's an embarrassment to go to another country like the United States. And I land up in San Francisco, 4 July, in the bicentennial, in 76. Could you imagine? It's a big parade, a big gay parade. I was really surprised, because I see that is color, comparing with the gray color that I normally live, with his horrible dictator. And I think, for me, it was really important, to do something, because I wanted to be involved in the new modern era. And the new modern era, my job was surgery. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to have friends around the world, like I have. I'm very happy, because if I go to to Singapore, I have friends there. If I go to India, of course, if I go to many places in the world, I think I have friends in surgery. And that is very good.
No, that's a lovely, lovely story of how the early years were shaped. But okay, so we get to a point now where you come back to Barcelona. You've been dabbling in laparoscopy, and I think dabbling is being a very perhaps an understand, or perhaps not giving you the due respect here. You're becoming an expert now in laparoscopy. And why do you choose colorectal? Of all these specialties the way you could have carried on, what was colorectal, and how did you work up towards the color trial, which of course is one of the seminal studies on laparoscopic colorectal surgery that we have, and still the basis of much of the work that we do today?
Actually, that is not absolutely the real things, because with I have another boss. He's a good surgeon. He's almost retired now, but he's absolutely against these minimal invasive procedures. And when I started to do laparoscopy in the hospital, we created a new service different than the other ones. And the first time I was, my own boss. And my own boss, is the same thing that I have the service, is gastrointestinal surgery. And we started, as I said, gallbladders, Nissen procedures. When we started with the colorectal, I remember, my old boss said, why in 1992, during the Olympic Games, I did my first laparoscopic colectomy for cancer. And my boss said, why you did a laparoscopic colectomy with the boss who was in the Olympics facilities? And I say, no, I did a gallbladder, but during the procedure, I found a tumor in the sigmoid colon, and I have to take out. You see, I was 3 months, forbidden to operate anymore during 3 months. But that was very good for me, because, I did the first 10 cases I presented in a Catalan Congress. The people is absolutely against. And after, we decided to do a randomized trial. When we did the randomized trial, probably is one of the papers that most important in my life, and was published in Lancet, and we demonstrated better results for laparoscopy comparing with open in a stage 3 cancer patient. That is the reason, because immediately people think, okay, this is a colorectal surgeon. I'm not a really colorectal surgeon, because I do many procedures. However, I started with the esophagus in the hospital. I normally do. However, I need to stimulate my group, and my group is divided for foreguards and hindguards, and that is the reason, because I used to help them to do many procedures in the foreguard, but when we started to do more colorectal, we do a lot of inflammatory bowel disease, we do a lot of cancer, and when we started with rectal cancer, probably one of the first places that we started with rectal cancer by laparoscopy. And after we moved to the transanal approach, that's very important 10 years ago, and we moved also to robotic surgery at the same time. That is the reason, because we created a group. And now I'm very happy, because my group is very, very good.
Great story. This is what people want to be inspired. These are the stories, fight against all odds, and, do what you have to do, and, what inspires you. Now, I have a very important question, Prof, because right from the time you started out, you've been teaching and training, and that's become synonymous with Professor Lacy. And your fellows around the world will talk about how great you are and how you spread your work and your technique. Now, can you please tell us in your own words, why is it so important as a surgeon to teach and train people around you and far away?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question, because it's very important for me. And probably, again, that is I'm feeling very well, talking with you, chatting with you. And say, okay, we have to come back to the history. And to the history is because, I have in my life 2 important things. One is like the majority. So one is my personal life, and the other one is my, is my job. Okay, I have to leave. For example, my younger son, I lived to United States when he was less than a month, and I leave my wife and my oldest son alone during a year in Barcelona. And that is very important for me, because I think that is not the way to do it, because, creates many, many problems. I remember when I was in San Francisco, 100% of the liver surgeons, transplant surgeons, are divorced. 100%. And that is not good. And I think we have to create something, tool, to try to bring all our knowledge to everyone. And I think we created AIS in two conditions. One has to be absolutely free for everyone. And the second thing is try to go to, as much as possible, any part in the world. Because, okay, we have the privilege, you live in a big country, for example. And I remember when I was my first time in India, I was in Bangalore. Bangalore is absolutely different than other places in India. Probably the level, economical, social level of Bangalore are probably absolutely higher than other places. And for example, Manis live in the, for me, is the best city in Europe. I have envy, to live in London. However, we have privilege. Barcelona is also a very nice place now. However, there are many places in the world, in South America, even in India, even in some part of Spain, we need to arrive there. And that was the reason, because we need to create something to connect. And that was the history to create AIS. I remember I was talking with one of the biggest industries in surgery, and I explained my project, and they start to laugh. And that's always stimulate to me. When the people say that is impossible, that is good. I wanted to do it. That was the reason.
So, Prof, you always led innovation, and you kept, driven innovation or kept up with the times. Now, you've done open lab, TaTME, robotics. Now, there's a lot of debate whether a surgeon can jump from open to robotics directly. As you being the master laparoscopic surgeon, what is your view on this? Do people need to have some laparoscopic experience, or it doesn't matter? What is your view on this?
Yeah, that's good. I wanted to clarify something, Venki. You are a very good friend, and I'm not a master on anything. I commit so many mistakes in my life, and I learn every day. I learn a lot about you, about Manish. That's excellent. Please don't say to me I'm a master on anything. A master probably of big mistakes, yes. The second thing is, you're right. I met a surgeon, an urologist in Barcelona. They never perform a laparoscopic procedure, and they went to open to robotic prostatectomy. And they do very well. And they did excellent. It's a long time. I think was the first urologist with robotics in Barcelona. That is the reason, because probably you don't need to use. My recommendation is, if you have experience in laparoscopy, it's easier, because we need to create something. And that is the reason, because we need to use, podcasts like this, AIS, many things, tools, to try to reduce the learning curve. And to reduce the learning curve, I think is excellent, robotic surgery. Because I remember one of my good friend of mine was let me say, not the best surgeon in colorectal. And they do normal rectal surgery, not perfect by laparoscopy. And I saw the first time, a robotic technique by him. It was incredible, very good. That is the reason, because probably if you have experience. But now the world is different. It's not like this urologist a long time ago. Now the majority of residents start with laparoscopy. Actually, one of the problems, we do a lot of carcinomatosis with HIPEC, and the majority of residents or young surgeons, they're not used to help, to assist open. And that is another problem, because they do excellent laparoscopic procedures. However, by open, they don't know the way to do it. And that is the reason, because now with the explosion, let me say 2-3 years ago now, explodes, robotic surgery. I think it will be the future. You know, when we have new robotics platform, new things, probably not so complicated. When you use laparoscopy, for example, to do a whipper procedure and you make the anastomosis, the robotic, you can mix, you know, and that will be excellent for anyone. Okay, in summary, I think it's much better to start with robotic if you have experience in laparoscopy.
Great. So last question in this segment is, so for example, now during the pandemic, we're all stuck in different parts of the world. We used to meet, you know, so often. You know, I used to meet Manish like more often than I meet my family, you know, in 2019. Now we're all stuck in different places. So now the whole game changes. So surgeons, junior surgeons, for example, or trainees are stuck in different parts of the world. They want training, and that's where telementoring comes in. And I think there's a special tool which AIS has built. Can you tell us about that? Because that's going to be very important for the future.
Yeah, that's very important. And let me explain, you know, starting with something. Immediately when COVID, you know, pandemic arrived, I remember when I had some news coming from Wuhan in China. Immediately, I do not understand my government, because I say, okay, it's in Wuhan, it's very close because we have, you know, globalization. And I start after that in Italy, and Italy is 1 hour plane from Barcelona, and I arrive here. Okay, we started to, and we created AIS COVID-19. AIS COVID-19, in 28 weeks, we passed a barrier of 5 million unique visitors, and more than 500,000 health professionals, you know, make courses related with PPE programs, ventilators, diagnosis, and more. That is the reason, because now probably we are in a new era. At the same time, we cannot include, you know, in a normal transmission of AIS, we have many people in the operating theater. Now it's not allowed in the hospital. You know, we have to do. And fortunately, previous months ago, before pandemic, we created a Telementoring. You know, it's a hardware, very simple, just plug and play, and we can connect with the rest of the world like a telephone. You know, it's a very simple procedure. You have the system, and we connect it, and we created the telestration that normally do, or reverse telestration that the experts is operating, and the beginner or the junior is in the other side. And that's, you know, one of the advantage is you can create it not point, let's say one people. Like normally start with the surgery, is you can connect with 50 places, 50 different hospitals at the same time. And that's good. The only thing is we need to create something better in terms of the translators, because, okay, the language is no doubt is the English. However, many people in the world still not speak very well English, you know, to do this kind of procedure. And we have to be very careful with Babel Tower. Say we can create it something, but now we are working with another big companies to try to create, translation at the same time. But Telementoring is ideal. It's ideal because it's a very simple. You don't need the camera of the lamp. You need the camera of the laparoscopy or the robotic. You can send transmission with the, probably thanks to COVID, we have the 5G, you know, early than without pandemic, because we need it. It's simpler, quicker, cheaper, etc. And let me, you know, finalize with something important for your experience. You're really a master of robotic surgery. You are a real master. And Venki, could you imagine if you put but integrated, you know, a telementoring platform in the robotic tower, and you can send to everyone? Because I don't know if you are using the teaching console. The teaching console is so expensive. It's too expensive for us because it's €500,000. It's crazy. However, if you have this, you can send Could you imagine to have a teaching console in 50 hospitals in India at the same time, operating you? Or, let me say something revolutionary, talking about the future. You can move this, the little hands of the robotic from your hospital. That will be the future, no doubt. And you can start like you normally do with the teaching console.
Wow. So Antonio, I think you have been very generous in your description and praise of others. And if there's one thing you're a master of, clearly, it's a master of modesty, I think. And it's been absolutely fascinating listening to the lead up to this point. But I'm just going to take you back a step or two to the real popularization of the AIS channel. And you know, we met, I remember, back in 2014 during one of the events in Barcelona, 2014, 2015. And I think what I really felt at that time, sitting in a room with many global surgeons recording this event and being fortunate enough just to be in the periphery, was you brought a bit of, and I'm not saying this in any kind of, to try and lesser the seriousness of performing surgery, but you brought a real glamour and an excitement to the educational aspect of surgery. It made it almost Hollywood, and certainly for those early years, it was like something that we'd never seen. We had all seen recorded videos on YouTube or other online platforms that we would use as educational reference, but this really brought a level of interaction and engagement for the rest of the world, which had never been seen before. And you know, we have been fortunate enough to have run some of these events together and compile some very big numbers of live viewers. And it's fantastic to see the number that you speak about with the AIS COVID-19 now of so many viewers that are looking for this reference. But I'm going to put a note of caution here and ask you, what are your thoughts on, because perhaps we're all sitting at home, because perhaps it has become so much more accessible for us to be able to create online webinars. We see webinars now almost every third or fourth day. And there is one Zoom meeting or Zoom webinar after another, with far lower figures. Is there any danger that you see of just having too much now?
You are absolutely right, because I remember, again, you know, we are very romantic, because you're saying, okay, I remember perfectly when I was speaking with you, because you asked, you know, to go to Barcelona. I say, okay, Manish, but it's not necessary to, you know, to be in Barcelona, because, you know, it's a congress, but it's a broadcasting congress. But you insist, because you are incredible. You insist, and you arrive to Barcelona. I say, what is this guy doing here? Because nobody, you know, the majority of people is only the surgeons and the as you said, global speakers. And immediately I realized this is a very smart guy, because immediately you enter into, it's like if you go, I had the opportunity to go to a big concert of the Rolling Stone long time ago in Barcelona, but I was invited at the backside. So you cannot imagine, it's absolutely different, because you saw, you know, my Jagger, when they finished the song, you know, absolutely exhausted, and enter, I don't know what is he doing, but he opened the door and he's absolutely active again. And you realize in media, you say, that is the way to do it. But talking about your question, say, okay, remember, when you're talking about, we have the broadcast was connected with a little more than 400 surgeons in those days. Now, the event that we share with you participated, you know, more than 45,000 live viewers in more than 100 countries in only 5 years. But you are right. Now we are committing another mistake. We have a webinar every 10 seconds, like congresses. And that is another mistake, because looks, people is talking about, I don't know, surgery and COVID and waiting list and, I do oncologic, yes or not. And you can go through the internet, and you can have the same topics by different people, because you said, I'm a modest surgeon. You say, no, I'm not modest. Like the majority of surgeons, we have a big sin. It's the ego. And we wanted to have our name in every place. We wanted to be like, I don't know, like one of the biggest actors that you prefer. I don't know what, probably Marlon Brando is one of the best for me. Say, all the surgeons wanted to be Marlon Brando. And that is not, ideal. And I think we have to create, because we are making, again, efforts, time, and money to do the same things. We have to organize better. We have to be more generous. You are a really generous man, because you organize congresses, meetings, webinars, podcasts, but you have the opportunity to many surgeons playing a role in your organization. And that's the way to do it, I think.
Great.
Well, what I would say is that I do remember that day of coming to Barcelona in a dark evening, and as you say, walking behind the backstage and realizing all of these people that I had collaborated with indirectly for papers and various things during my training, and suddenly seeing this crazy world, backstage world, like a green room almost. And it suddenly hit me very quickly that this is the future. This is it. This is how surgery will be taught going forward. And I think from that day onwards, we developed this fantastic relationship. And when I first pitched the idea of the London AIS event, everyone told me I was crazy. Everyone, apart from two people, you and Steve Wexner. And both of you said, let's do it. But everyone else said, you're crazy, trying to do simultaneous live rectal cancer surgery at the same time, broadcast it, invite people from around the world. But we did it. And I think that set the benchmark for a lot of what we see today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right, Manish, because, but probably I put in many congresses, one incredible announcement about Samsung. You probably remember, you say, when the people, you say, Oster, and also trying to fly. And all of them, all the followers are laughing about this beautiful lady. And they move from, take her breakfast to put a VR camera in her eyes, and they start to work. And that is the same thing around the world. So, okay. You started, you move, and now it's one of the best. I think one is the best congress or meeting. I don't know exactly, because it's different in the world. It's no doubt.
It's a great chat. People are going to love this. And I want to ask you, as a teaser, what are the top 3 innovations which are going to go change surgery in the future?
Okay, the first thing that I think is very easy is future, because it's not present, is to be connected, as we talk about telementoring, telestration, registration, everything in a easy way. You say, okay, operate in theaters, okay, you can do in India, Manish can do in UK, you can combine, and that's probably the first thing. Is so easy with the 5G, will be easy. The second thing probably is more complicated, is when you have all the system connected, you can't make, but again, we have many, let me say, litigation problems. Could you imagine if I move? I remember I was in a congress a long time ago I think it was in London. Yes, it was in London, 15 years ago, talking about proctor and mentor. And I was really surprised, because this guy organized a meeting with lawyers, and they speak 4 hours about proctoring and mentoring. And in summary, proctoring, you can have problems, legal problems. Mentoring, you say, okay, is when you do this surgery in a normal theater with your residents or registers, you said, okay, do this, do it. That is proctor. When you do, I think you should, that's probably mentor. And that's when every of this was solved, you can make the connection, even moving your hands in your robotic with a 5G, without delay, without anything. That will be ideal. Not only like Maresco and Gagne made in 2000 about, to do a transatlantic cholecystectomy. I think that is not the idea, to operate from Mallorca to Chennai a patient. That is not important. However, assist or help, you can help many people in India, as I said, I tried to explain before. And the third thing is, for me, the ideal. The ideal is when you have the robot now. The robot is a Hungarian or Czech word, I don't remember exactly, and means, heavy worker without salary. And heavy worker without salary, is equal a slave. And now you robot is a slave because you move in and they imitate everything. That's called manipulator. They don't have brain. And that is not good. It's not enough good. And my let me say, my real dream, and I hope I can see, is when you talk with the robot. When the robot realize immediately, it's like a deep mind from Google. So when the robot realize immediately you are an expert, and the robot can learn about you, or you are a beginning and the robot can assist to you, say, be careful. And thanks to intelligence, artificial intelligence, etc., and many things that now you have, could you imagine, have a conversation that we have with the robot during the operation? You have all the information, everything. It's to create a real beautiful and good Skynet. Probably you remember Terminator. It's a movie long time ago. Could you imagine if you create? And Hawkins, Stephen Hawkins said, be careful, because Bill Gates talked about coronavirus, but Hawkins talked about, the problem of the new robots. And I think probably it's not because he's an excellent man. However, probably he commit a mistake. The robots can be very good. Could you imagine, now the average people for death in Barcelona is more than 80 years. And many people live alone. For example, in my personal situation, you know exactly what was my problem, 2 years and some months ago. And now I live alone. I'd say probably I can have a robot, to speak with them. Maybe when I have some problems in my leg, they can assist me, etc. The same thing in robotics, in surgery. That's probably the three topics that I have. I don't know. I have some ideas now.
Wow.
I think that's it's been an absolute delight speaking to what I would consider members of my family on this particular podcast. Definitely some of the closest people to me when it comes to surgery. And I can promise you one thing, Antonio, robots or no robots, you can always call us to talk to, and if you ever have anything that you need, because from someone that has given so much to the world of surgery over the last 3 decades or so. I mean, we've been through open, laparoscopic, robotic, transanal, AIS, 5G, telestration, and now the future of going beyond the telemanipulators. I think, for the least we can do is be there for you for a phone call if you ever need a chat. So I'm like to say again, thank you very much for spending your precious time with us this morning. And I'll leave the last word with our host Venki. Please hit the subscribe button so that we can give you additional content on further podcasts. And Venki, for the last word, please.
Raf, thank you so much for your time. And, we love AIS, we love Hugo, we love Borga, we love you, and see you soon. And, we'll be in touch.
Let me say goodbye with one thing. I can do all that they mentioned, Manis and you, because I have the influence of Catalina. And the second thing is because I have, so many friends like you, and we created a real family in surgery, and we can do many, many important things to help and to assist and to learn, to teach many people around the world. Thank you for your opportunity.
Thank you, Antonio. And I hope that everyone can join us for, of course, our winter event that we will be holding as usual, this time again, the online event. And we will see you on December the 11th and December the 18th for the AIS winter events. Thank you and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.